Hello and welcome to the Professional Book Nerds podcast brought to you by Libby. My name is Joe and I am so happy you're here. Before we dive in today, remember to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you are doing your listening. And then, of course, if you are joining us on the Libby app YouTube channel, hi, you can see me waving. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of those YouTuber words as well. And if you're listening and you didn't know there's video, you can see my face, you can see my outfit. Go check out on the Libby App YouTube channel. It should be linked in the description below on your listening platform. You can also watch on Spotify. One final reminder, we are very quickly approaching June, which will be the rebrand and relaunch of this podcast in its new format. So just wanted to give a reminder, it's been a few episodes since I've done that, but remember, we will be renaming and rebranding the show. We are very excited. I truly cannot wait for you to see what this looks like and what we will be doing and who we're welcoming on. So keep your eyes peeled for that coming in June. You won't have to go anywhere new to subscribe or listen. It will exist where you are already enjoying this show. With that out of the way, I think I hit all my bullet points. I am so happy to be joined by my coworker, Madison. Madison, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad you're here. You are one of the book girlies I get to sit by, and I'm so excited when we get to work together. So asking you to join me today was a treat.
I was so excited. I literally did a little shriek. I was like, I get to be on the podcast.
Exactly. That's the dream. That's what I want everyone to do when I be like, "Hey, do you want to join me?" I ask very timidly and I assume everyone will say no and then they say yes. So, Madison, what do you do at Overdrive?
So I'm one of our marketing and communication specialists, and I specifically oversee PR for corporate Overdrive, but then all of our awesome brands like Libby, Canopy, Teaching Books, Sora, all of that great stuff. And I also work on all of our influencer marketing campaigns.
Very exciting. So, if you have seen a press release from us, Madison has likely written it or gotten it where it needs to go. If you've seen all of the cool influence work, there's so much amazing stuff that Madison does behind the scenes and up front. And it's nice to be able to say to everyone, hey, here's the face to put to all of these cool things and exciting things you're seeing happening out there. Now, aside from Overdrive, I believe you're also a book fan. Do you want to talk about your
Yes.
your book space?
Yes. So I am a bookstagrammer, a book talker, all of the bookish things.
Yes.
My tag is Simon Says Read if you want to go follow me on both Instagram and TikTok. And I feel like for all my coworkers, so like, where the heck does this name come from? Because my signature in every email says Madison Stoneburner. So they're like, who the hell is Simon? And that is actually my husband's name. I kind of took it on as like a stage name of sorts. I didn't officially change my name, but I
Yeah.
thought it was super cute. And I was like, it's a little homage to our marriage and everything that I'm going to take it on as a stage name and present myself as Madison Simon online. And that's where Simon Says Read came from.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love the kind of keeping your own name, but also embracing and welcoming in a different space and getting to kind of play both sides of yourself.
Yeah, it's super fun. And I was like, oh, I'll be like Madison Stoneburner Simon. And right away I was like, that is such a mouthful.
It's
Like
so
I
long.
I don't think anyone's ever gonna address me by my full name. So I was kind of looking for a fun way. And I'm sure eventually people will come to know me as Madison Simon and the mail will start saying Madison Simon. But for now, I am sticking with Madison Stoneburner. I love my last name. And that's my
Yeah.
professional persona. And then online, I am Madison Simon.
That's so fun. Oh, how cool is that? I love to see the blending and it is interesting. Like you if you hyphenated your last name, you'd never be able to fill out a government form. You'd
No.
always like run out of space. So
Yes.
well, today Madison and I will be taking you through April's biggest books. I know the title has given it away, but as always, I love to bring people on and say, please tell me what you're looking forward to. So we will be sharing the books releasing this coming month, April, just a few days away from the time that you're watching or listening to this. And let's find out what we're listening and reading to and what you want to add to your TBR. So, Madison, do you want to kick us off or do you want me to go first?
Doesn't matter. Do you want me
Okay,
to go first?
go for it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll throw you right into the deep end.
Right in. Okay. So my first one that I'm really looking forward to is called Gifted and Talented, and that's by Olivia Blake. I have actually never read any of her stuff, but the Atlas Six has been on
Oh.
my TBR forever. So as
Hmm.
soon as I saw she had something new coming out, I was like, well, we might as well just preemptively add this to the list because
Definitely.
I've heard great things about her. So this is a fantasy. If you've never read Olivia Blake, she does all things fantasy. Where there's a will, there's a war. Thayer Wren, the brilliant CEO of Renfair Magitech and so-called father of modern technology, is dead. Any one of his three telepathically and electrokinetically gifted children would be a plausible inheritor to the Renfair throne, or at least so they'd like to think. Meredith, textbook accomplished eldest daughter and the head of her own groundbreaking biotech company, has recently cured mental illness. You're welcome. If only her father's fortune wasn't her last hope for keeping her journalist ex-boyfriend from exposing what she really is, a total fraud. Arthur, second youngest congressman in history, fights the good fight every day, and yet his wife might be leaving him and he's losing his re-election campaign. But his dead father's approval in the form of a seat on the Renfair throne might just turn his sinking ship around. Alid, once the world's most famous ballerina, has spent the last 5 years as a run-of-the-mill marketing executive at her father's company after a life-altering injury put an end to her prodigious career. She might be lacking in accolades compared to her siblings, but if her father left her everything, it would finally validate her worth by confirming she's been his favorite all along.
It sounds so good. I am such a sucker for anything that's like, oh, magic has creeped into the
Yes.
real world, and that sounds like where this is going. Oh my God, as I hit the mic,
Yes.
that sounds like where this is going. I also like, tell me you haven't worked in marketing, just a run of the mill marketing
Yes.
executive position. There aren't many of those in most
No.
companies. It's usually just the executive position. So I'm like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe that's just because that's our field that I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I would like I'd say she's pretty accomplished if she's got
Yeah,
executive at the end of her
exactly.
title.
Anytime you find that, it's usually something. You've done some amount of work. Oh, well, that sounds so good. I have only heard good things about Olivia Blake. And right, the Atlas Six has been on my TBR for maybe too long as well. So my first pick is a sequel or is a return to a world which I don't love to do in our monthly book picks in case you haven't been there, but I feel like this is the time of year when we're all looking for a new series to start in or just somewhere to pick up with just more than what's hot and what's going on. So this is The Cat Who Saved the Library by Sosuke Natsukawa, and this will be out April 8th. So it's the long-awaited sequel to the #1 international bestseller, The Cat Who Saved Books, an uplifting tale from Japan about a talking cat, a book-loving girl, and the power of books to make a difference in the world. I know I've talked about it. I'm a dog lover. I'm a dog person, so it seems odd for me to pick a cat book, but I am all about loving the power of books to save the world. And I'm sorry, The Cat Who Saved the Library, sign me up. So, a chronic asthma condition prevents 13-year-old Nanami from playing sports or spending time with her friends after school, but nothing can stop her from her one favorite activity. Nanami loves to read and happily spends much of her free time in the library, cocooned among the stacks. Relatable, too relatable. Then one day, Nanami notices that despite the library being as deserted as ever, some of her favorite books, including classics like Arsène Lupin, Gentleman Thief, and Anne of Green Gables, are disappearing from the shelves. When she alerts the library staff, they dismiss her concerns. But just as Nanami is about to return to her reading, she spots a suspicious man in a gray suit. Eager to discover what he's up to, she follows him. The chase is cut short when she suffers an asthma attack. By the time she catches her breath, the man has disappeared, and all that's left behind is a mysterious light filtering through the library's familiar passageways. That's when Tiger, the talking tabby cat who saves books, comes to the rescue. Are Nanami and Tiger prepared to face the dangerous challenges that lie ahead? Why are there faceless gray soldiers burning books in a stone castle? What happened to Rintaro, the socially withdrawn hero who helped Tiger save books in the secondhand bookshop? At the time of increased book bannings worldwide, Sosuke Natsukawa urges us to not underestimate the power of great literature and to be prepared to defend our freedom to choose. Again, that is The Cat Who Saved the Library by Sosuke Natsukawa, out April 8th. Any surprise why I picked this? I mean,
It sounds so good.
right? I'm here to fight against book bans left and right, but also it's so thoughtful. I'm also a big proponent of literature and translation. I mean, there's stats to show that not a lot of books get translated, and we're seeing now more than ever books are being translated, which I love to see. But it's a great way to explore culturally. If you're not able to travel, if you're not a big traveler, if you just want more perspective and understanding, I really think it's a way to help. And it's also very interesting to see how we all approach certain topics differently, or just even like gentle fantasy like this that I say almost skews magical realism in other things we might read first in English here, how different that's done in kind of like the original Japanese or in the translation in this case. So very excited. Cannot wait to pick this up. And if you haven't read the first one, The Cat Who Saved Books, start there and get on the journey.
That sounds so good. As someone who had like the childhood asthma and was always sidelined from everything, I'm like, I feel like I have to still to this day have like my inhaler within reach at
Just
all
in case.
times.
Yes.
Um, feel like I need to read that for sure.
Definitely.
My next pick is The Amalfi Curse by Sarah Penner. First of
Hmm.
all, the cover of this book is
So good.
beautiful. It looks
Gorgeous.
incredible. Um, So, Haven Ambrose, a trailblazing nautical archaeologist, has come to the sun-soaked village of Positano to investigate the mysterious shipwrecks along the Amalfi Coast. But Haven is hoping to find more than old artifacts beneath the azure waters. She is secretly on a quest to locate a trove of priceless gemstones her late father spotted on his final dive. Upon Haven's arrival, strange maelstroms and misfortunes start plaguing the town. Is it nature or something more sinister at work? As Haven searches for her father's sunken treasure, she begins to unearth a centuries old tale of ancient sorcery and one woman's quest to save her lover and her village by using the legendary art of, believe this is Stregeria?
Okay.
Stregeria? Always
I
questionable when it comes to fantasy.
fantasy, I think that's just Italian. I also struggle
It
with
might be. I don't even know.
I no clue, but that's
And
one of
that's always
those.
the case with fantasy. Like, oftentimes it's a real
Right.
word, it's just not English. And you're like, I don't know how to say this.
It took me, I feel like the majority of my I think it took me until I started working at Overdrive to go, "Oh, that's just a
Right?
word in another
Yes.
language."
Yeah, so Stregeria, probably some sort of Italian, but a magical ability to harness the ocean.
How
So could
cool.
this be the magic behind Positano's latest calamities? I I've always wanted to visit the Amalfi Coast, and I have not
Yes.
gotten there yet. So I feel like I can live out a little bit vicariously through this book while also getting some really awesome historical fiction and fantasy in.
It sounds fantastic. Sarah Penner was one of our keynotes at Digipalooza in 2023. For our librarian friends who are watching and listening, hey, we'll be having Digipalooza again in Cleveland this August. Sign up, digipalooza.com. It is a conference for our library partners. So, check it out. Hopefully, keynotes announcing soon. But Sarah was such a wonderful speaker and shared about her travels, and she seems to travel a lot. And that's where she goes to write and how she just kind of builds her worlds based off of, like you said, a bit of that historical fiction, a bit of the truth, and then a bit of this just magic and fantasy that you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, crazy to go from the Lost Apothecary to the Amalfi Coast, but
Yeah.
I'll take it. My next pick is ASL by Jean Thornton. This will be out April 1st. It's got this fun kind of 8-bit cover. It seems so of the times with kicking off with something like ASL. But this is a transformational, transformative story about video games, three queer friends, and the codes they learn to survive from the winner of the Lambda Literary Award for Trans Fiction, Jean Thornton. So, very excited as always. It's 1998. I love a little trip back in time. Lilith, Sash, and Abraxa are teenagers scattered across the country, but joined by the internet as they create Saga of the Sorceress, a video game that will change everything, if only for the three of them. 18 years later, Saga of the Sorceress still exists only in the scattered drives of its creators. Lilith works as a loan underwriter at a rinky dink bank in Manhattan, a trans woman in a very cis world. Sash is in Brooklyn working as a part time webcam dominatrix. Neither knows that the other is in New York or that Abraxa is just across the Hudson River, sleeping on the floor of a friend's Jersey City home after a disaster at sea. They have never met in person and have been out of touch for years, but none have forgotten the sorceress or her unfinished quest. Weaving together the technologies of 2 decades and a healthy dose of magic, ASL is a novel that queers our notions of nostalgia, friendship, and even the possibilities of fiction itself, confirming Jean Thornton as one of our best and most ambitious novelists. I mean, I'm here for it. I was a Ready Player One lover when that came out. I'm always looking for kind of that similar, and I'm so excited to get more of a queer version of this, that kind of very I mean, it seems so cliche, but who doesn't want a story of friends in New York City who don't even know each other in real life? So, very excited to see how this turns out. So, that
Yeah,
is ASL by Jean Thornton, out April 1st.
that sounds so good. April's just got so many good books.
Madison, I'm so sorry to say this to you, but these episodes are brutal on the TBR. So, I hope you're ready. Every
I'm
month has
I'm
good books.
prepared for the challenge. I
Okay,
know. And
good.
that's the thing. Every time I write for our Libby Life blog and every time I sign
Hmm.
up for like a big books blog or whatever, I'm like, how are there this many, not just books coming out every month, but
I
good
know.
books? Like it's insane.
Exactly. Good, and that's the thing, like, just books in gen there's always
Yes.
books coming
There's
out, and
always books.
but then there's always, like, just good books, and then when you see they're on a theme, because like, right, when we get to write for Libby Life, you go, "Oh, I love this topic, I wanna talk more about
Yes.
it," and then you go, "Oh, no, I hadn't heard any of these suggested books.
Yes.
Now I have to now I have to read them, I guess."
Yeah.
So, great shameless plug, Madison. If I haven't talked about it recently, which I probably haven't, we have a really cool blog for all of you who are looking for great book recommendations called Libby Life. Will see so many familiar names from the show writing content on the blog. We've got an email list that you can sign up for to get weekly book recommendations delivered to your inbox, or you can pop over to libbylife.com to check out what's trending and what's recent and what we're excited about.
Also very tough on the TBR. You will
Very tough.
always be adding things once you subscribe to that email.
But if you want to know what books fit your zodiac sign, we've got you covered. My fellow Scorpios, you can read that one from me.
My next pick, this is like my wild card that I
Okay,
threw in there.
I
It's
love it.
Their Monstrous Hearts by Yeet
Ooh.
Turin. And this is my wild card for me because it's classified as horror, and I am not a horror girly at all.
Well, you're
So
in the right place because I am a horror girly.
I know I've read horror in the past and like it's
Mhm.
something I can sometimes read. I cannot
Yes.
watch horror movies. So like
Okay.
books for me it's like the workaround where like all I have to
Totally.
fear is like my own imagination, like
Yeah.
not special effects on the screen, which can
Yes.
sometimes be worse and sometimes can be better. So,
Oh, agreed.
but there were so many things that intrigued me about this book. First of all, the quote on the front of it, a gothic, darkly alluring tale that will leave readers spellbound. That quote is from none other than the iconic Grammy Award winning singer songwriter Dua Lipa.
What? Dula Peep?
Right? I was like, what are you doing here, girl? Why are you
I
on the
didn't
cover of this book?
I didn't know you were giving pull quotes, but hey, we'll take it.
Yes, I just as soon as I saw that, first of all, the cover is beautiful. It's got like the
Mhm.
hands with a beautiful butterfly in it. But then I saw that quote and I was like, well, now I need to know. Like,
Now I need Dua Lipa, what are you doing here?
yeah, like what are you doing here? So this is a haunting novel about the boundaries people will cross to keep their dreams alive. A mysterious stranger shows up at Ricardo's apartment with some news. His grandmother, Parahan, has died, and Ricardo has inherited her villa in Milan along with her famed butterfly collection. The struggling writer is out of options. He's hoping the change of scenery in Milan will inspire him, and maybe there will be some money to keep him afloat. But Parahan's house isn't as opulent as he remembers. The butterflies pinned in their glass cases seem more ominous than artful. Parahan's group of mysterious old friends is constantly lurking, and there's something wrong in the greenhouse. As Ricardo explores the decrepit estate, he stumbles upon Parahan's diary, which might hold the key to her mysterious death, or at least give him the inspiration he needs to finish his manuscript. But he might not survive long enough to write it.
I love a haunted house.
Yes.
That is one of my favorites, and I think that is one of the maybe not best, but one of the a really good entry point for horror or a safe space kind of horror when you've got that like it'll get you, it'll chill you, but if you're worried about like killers, now we go from Dua Lipa to Wendy Williams, the killer. If you're worried about freaking out about people and entities, usually a haunted house is just going to be enough atmosphere in a decrepit Milan manor. Okay. With too many
Yes.
bugs under glass. Sounds gross. Can't wait. Like
Yes. This sounds like something I can do. Like, I'm sure
yeah.
there will be points where I'm getting very nervous and like pulling the blankets over my head. But
Uh-huh.
it feels like something I can do. I love the premise of like the butterflies. I think
Yes.
they're so beautiful, but I feel like they are one of those creatures that you can make them creepy like really easily.
I mean, even just the like he thinks he hears something and you turn around and one of
Yes.
them's flapping under the glass. Like,
Yes.
great. Perfect.
Yes.
And now I love that you said this is one of your kind of like wild cards, almost challenging yourself. I think that's really important. What draws you to step out of your usual genres?
Yes, I have made a goal for myself for 2025 that I am going to step outside of like my favorite genres, which tend to be romantasy and then romance fantasy. Like
I was gonna
obvious,
say,
like
please tell me
everything.
what they are. Yeah.
Yes. Romance, fantasy, romantasy. Like that
And
tends to
then
be, yeah,
historical fiction, I feel like as
some
well.
historical
Okay.
fiction too. That tends to be where I'm comfortable with. That tends to
Okay.
be what I like. And for 2025, I was like looking back at my 2024 like year in review and I was like, you know what, we need some variety here.
Yeah.
So I've been challenging myself like every month to read something that's just kind of out of the box. For March, it was All in Her Head, which is a nonfiction book about like the history of women's health and all of like the
Oh,
biases that these men who were the doctors of the time poured
right.
into their research and to their care of women. And it just like explores all these horrible, horrible things that have happened to women over the ages that now even in like today's world there are still doctors and still women
Mhm.
ourselves who are like living these biases and like, oh no, I'm not having a heart attack, it's just anxiety.
Ugh.
Just it was so
Right.
eye-opening, and so that was my read for March. And now for April I'm thinking maybe some horror, going to very different, I mean both horrifying but in different
Yes.
ways.
Honestly, yeah, true horror and fiction horror.
Yes.
Uh,
But yeah, that's
I
my goal.
I love that because I look at my lists and I try when I'm creating them to be like, okay, you can't just give the same genres you always give. And that's where I go, I have guests to balance me out. When you started filling yours in, I was like, oh, good. Okay, I can cut like half of the romance from mine and just keep the one I'm excited for. But I love the idea of just like you should challenge yourself because what if that's how you find something else you like? Like I didn't know how much I loved horror as a reading option until I started on the podcast. And like I've watched horror movies, I've read horror books in the past, but I also think they weren't as available as they are now. I think the marketing is there, but also the publishing houses understand that like this doesn't have to just be called a psychological thriller anymore
Yeah.
or the genre exists now. But so then right, like we're about to head into basically the horror part of my list, which is like my next two or three books. um but I love the idea of like throw something else in there. So I try to find sci-fi or sci-fi fantasy because I struggle the deeper it gets. I love like in your first couple recommendations, just the like the light fantasy, the
Yes.
fantasy in our world. So trying to either go really deep or right, go way out of left field and pick just unexpected things to shake it up.
Yeah, definitely keeps you on your toes, and I feel like for me, it keeps me out of a reading slump when I don't feel like I'm reading the same thing over and over again,
Yes,
even though I love it. You need
exactly.
something new every
But
once in a while.
that's such a good point that even when you're at, like, a really solid clip of reading, I mean, I'm just coming out of that same kind of thing where I had put away, like, 20 plus books, and I was like, "Oh, I'll listen to a podcast to just, like, break up the audiobook time," and then, like, a month had passed, and I went, "Oh, suddenly I haven't read at all."
Yeah,
So yeah, you never know. You never know
yeah,
when it's gonna sneak up on you.
yeah.
Now, my next pick is from Chuck Wending, who has been on the podcast before. This one caught me by the title alone because I am a like horror true crime podcast listener. So I love the weird concepts that people find online, or like anything that makes it from Reddit to a podcast is usually how I find it. So this caught me. This is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, out at the end of the month, April 29th. Um, but there's this whole thing about staircases being fully built in parts of the woods. I don't know, like, what's just Reddit fiction and what's like, oh, someone did actually find a creepy staircase once. But there's this whole thing that, like, if you find a staircase in the woods and you start walking up it, you get transported in a different world, or like something just happens to you. So it's very creepy. It's very like atmospheric. And honestly, some of the spookiest to me is when you get into that, like, we don't know what's out there. We don't know what's in the dark of the woods. It's the like, you want to freak me out, drop me in the ocean, drop me in the woods. Like anything that's out of sight, I'm going to lose it. But so this is where a group of friends investigates the mystery of a strange staircase in the woods in this mesmerizing horror novel from New York Times bestselling author of the Book of Accidents. Five high school friends are bonded by an oath to protect one another no matter what. Then, on a camping trip in the middle of the forest, they find something extraordinary: a mysterious staircase to nowhere. One friend walks up and never comes back down. Then the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared. Now the group returns to find the lost boy and what lies beyond the staircase in the woods. So, again, that is The Staircase in the Woods, Chuck Wendig, April 29th. How creepy is that?
I'm getting heart palpitations, like,
You're
thinking
like, and
about
I need to leave
this.
now.
That I have seen, like, the Reddit threads about, like, the
Okay.
staircase in the woods and, like, the posts
Yes.
about it, like, the creepypasta posts and, like,
Yeah,
stuff like
that's
that.
it.
Yes.
I am such a creepypasta. Like, feed it to me however I want to hear it.
Yes. That scares the crap out of me. Like,
Oh,
if I
same.
saw a staircase in the woods, I would be
I'd run.
hightailing it in the other direction.
I
I'm
don't know
out
the
of
last
here.
time I ran, but I'd run. Like,
Yes, yes.
gone.
That would be my cardio for the rest of the year. I'm out of here.
That would be my cardio for life. My heart would fly out of my chest if I saw a
Literally.
staircase in the woods. So when I saw this, I went, done, because I love to see how authors translate, which I'll just say pop culture, but like Reddit, creepypasta, things like that feel to me like a part of pop culture. So I love seeing when books are built off of that. So I gotta know. I want to see his take. He does a very interesting version of like sci-fi fantasy that I think could really feed this well.
Yeah. Once you read it, let me know if
I
you
will.
think I can stomach it, and then then we'll see.
If you can get through it.
Yes, then we'll see.
Perfect.
Switching gears a lot. My
Please.
next pick is The Page Turner by Viola Shipman, and this is supposed to come out April 8th. This is just like women's fiction. A young romance writer makes a discovery that throws her elitist family into chaos in this sharp, witty, and entirely delightful family drama for fans of Eleanor Lippman and Jennifer Weiner. Emma Page grew up the black sheep in a bookish household, raised to believe that fine literature is the only worthy type of fiction. Her parents, self proclaimed serious authors who run their own vanity press, the Mighty Pages, mingle in highbrow social circles that look down on anything too popular or mainstream, while her sister Jess is a powerful social media influencer whose stylish reviews can make or break a novel. Hiding her own romance manuscript from her disapproving parents, Emma finds inspiration at the family cottage among the fluff they despise, the juicy summer romances that belong to her late grandmother. But a chance discovery unearthed from her Gigi's belongings reveals a secret that has the power to ruin her parents' business and destroy their reputation in the industry. A secret that has already fallen into the hands of an unscrupulous publishing insider with a grudge to settle. Now Emma must decide, as much as she's dreamed of the day when her parents are forced to confront their own egos, can she really just sit back and watch the mighty pages be exposed and their legacy destroyed?
I love it. I love everything about that. From the moment that you said Syria, I just well, we all know those
Yes.
people. We
Yes.
us readers, we all know those people.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
And I love, like, I feel like as readers, like whenever there's something that's like publishing industry, a writer,
Yes.
like we just eat it up. Like we just
Oh,
love
every
it.
time. I
Yes.
mean, you and I sit here talking to publishers and then go, okay, but now I want the drama in the
Yes. Now I want
background.
the
Like
drama.
it's like mm, I love that call out because like I have so many thoughts. I have so many things I shouldn't even say, but I love that concept of like, okay, well, I'm gonna go write my bullshit fluff. You have fun with your serious
Yes.
vanity press, and I'll have a good time and see
Yes.
commercial success. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't yuck on anyone's yum. Like that's the thing. Like go
Yeah.
ahead, read whatever you want.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
love people who only read trash. I love people who do like highbrow, lowbrow. I love the combo. The only time you'll catch me going, side eyeing is when it's that. The like, oh,
Yeah.
I only read the real stuff, the serious
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, that is what gets me. And like I love the concept of her finding like her grandmother's nasty
Uh-huh.
like
Her like
little.
bodice rippers.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. I love it because I feel like everyone we talk about like smut as it exists today and they're like how did we get here? And it's like did you read like
Baby, we've
any of
always
these
been
books?
here,
Like
right?
we have always been here. Like your grandmother is writing like some of the nastiest smut that you have ever seen. Like
Your grandma would, you don't even want to know what she's reading. Like, uh-uh.
yeah. I love
No.
whenever there's that little like trope thrown in there, like the old like romance novels. I love it.
Yes. Who doesn't love like the ridiculous, not even period fitting to the book cover of
Yes.
just handsome man with long hair blowing in the breeze and a woman in a dress like half off the shoulder
Yes.
standing on the ledge. Like
Absolutely.
it's so good. Well, I'm going to pivot us back in the opposite direction with another horror thriller. This is The Cut, and this is by CJ Dotson, out April 8th. Let's see. Let's see. It's a chilling supernatural horror novel set in a mysterious hotel. Oh, I love a hotel for a horror setting. Oof. A woman fleeing her abusive ex finds herself running from more than just her past. A historic hotel long past its prime and huddled along the cut, a questionable Lake Erie beach, isn't Sadie Mills' ideal place to raise a toddler while also navigating her second pregnancy. After finally fleeing from her abusive ex fiance, Sadie's new housekeeping position and free room at L'Arbin Hotel are the best she can manage. On her first night, Sadie runs to help a guest struggling in the hotel's pool, only to find the water calm and empty when she gets there, leaving her with a lingering unease. When a guest then goes missing and her manager insists they simply left without checking out, Sadie suspects he's covering up darker goings on at the hotel. After her ex, Sadie won't let anyone convince her that what she's experiencing isn't real again. So she keeps digging, quickly uncovering suspicious interactions with the staff, mysteriously vanishing security cameras, more missing guests, and things that go bump in the night and drip in the walls, slither in the tub, and squirm in the halls. Everything isn't as it seems with the dim hallways of the hotel. Sadie has nowhere to go and nowhere to hide. She'll need to keep her wits about her to survive and keep her toddler and unborn child safe from whatever lurks nearby. That is The Cut by CJ Dotson, out April 8th.
That sounds so good.
Right?
I creepy hotels scare the crap out of me. They
Oh,
really
yeah.
do. But that is one thing that like I eat it up. Like
Uh
there's
huh.
very like specific episodes of like TV shows, like Halloween episodes where I think of them like taking
Yes.
place in like creepy hotels and just like I eat it up every time. There's like a very specific Doctor Who episode that I think of whenever
Oh
there's like,
yeah,
do you know what I'm
I
talking
do.
about? Like, whenever I hear of like a creepy hotel, that's
That's
what
what
I'm
you think of.
picturing in my head. But I then, like, the next time I go to a hotel, I'm like, oh, remember what you read, remember what you saw.
It's so true though, and like the cover is a creepy tentacle coming out of a drain, like a shower drain. And so just like drip and slither and Lake Erie,
Yes.
that's what definitely got me to put this on the list for sure. Lake Erie mention. But right, a creepy hotel will always get me. It's that like it's the haunted house. Once you have a haunted setting,
Yes.
especially this where you know it has to like with a hotel, it's either so big and there are so many people that you should feel safe, but you're actually more at risk because there's no one there to help you actually, or they're so small that outside is the danger. It's the like roadside motel where there's only 5 rooms and
Yeah.
is the owner a creep or not? Like no matter what, you can get a really good creepy hotel setting. So
Yeah. I love,
worth the read, hopefully.
yeah. I feel like the tentacles, like Yuri, you just,
I'm ready.
that's very Cleveland. Very
Very,
Cleveland.
very Cleveland to have a Lake Erie monster.
Yes. My next pick is When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vita Kelly. I This looks so good to me. This is like a cozy romantasy. There was a call out from like TJ Klune on the cover, so
Love.
I'm like, okay, perfect, wonderful.
Sold.
Benny knows an orphaned blacksmith in 1910's New York City can't call himself an artist, but the ironwork tank he creates for famed Coney Island playground Luna Park astounds everyone, especially the eccentric sideshow proprietor who commissioned it. Benny's work earns him an invitation to join the show's eclectic crew of performers, his first welcome in the city, and share in their astonishing secret. The tank Benny built is a cage for their newest exhibit, a living, breathing, in the flesh merman stolen from the banks of the East River under a gleaming full moon. The merman is more than a mythic marvel, though. Benny comes to know Rio as a clever philosopher, an observant traveler, and a kindred spirit more beautiful and compassionate than any human he's ever met. Despite their different worlds, what begins as a friendship of necessity deepens to love, leading Benny's heart into uncharted waters where he can no longer ignore the agonizing truth of Rio's captivity and his own. A cage is no place for a merman to survive. Though releasing Rio means betraying his new family, bankrupting their home, and losing his soulmate forever, Benny must look within for the courage to do what's right and find a love strong enough to free them both.
That sounds so perfect. And this cover is stunning.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous, like Art Nouveau style. Oh, oh.
I love
I
a forbidden love.
love a forbidden love. Love that like I have to hurt myself to save you. Like
Yes.
the selfless self-sacrifice. Just that sounds so perfect.
Yes.
And no wonder they got TJ to quote that, to put a
Right.
quote on that.
Right.
Like, he's
Perfect
probably,
person.
yeah,
Yes.
probably mad that he didn't think of it first.
Yes. I feel like that is a perfect beach read, especially as
Mhm.
someone who loves fantasy and like
Yeah.
fantasy doesn't always fall into the beach read category. So
Right.
for like a cozy romantasy that you could like pick up or like on your trip to New York City or something, like
Yes.
there's so many situations where I could see myself reaching for this book.
It feels like a light lift read, but an
Yes,
emotional ride that you're going to enjoy.
absolutely. Yes.
And that bit of like back in time when there were, you know, like carnivals and whatnot and sideshows. So interesting journey overall. Oh, ooh, that sounds so cute. Well, my next pick, we're going in the thriller portion of my list now, and what a title, what a cover. This is Make Sure You Die Screaming by Z. Carlstrom. Again, what a title. It's an electrifying debut about a non-binary corporate burnout embarking on a road trip from Chicago to Arkansas to find their conspiracy theorist father who has gone missing for fans of Detransition Baby and Chain Gang All-Stars. Two incredible books to compare something to. I love a debut. I love a road trip story. So I'm sad. The newly nameless narrator. Oh, I love a nameless narrator. Sorry. The newly nameless narrator of Make Sure You Die Screaming has rejected the gender binary, has flamed out with a vengeance at their corporate gig, is most likely brain damaged from a major tussle with their now ex boyfriend, and is on a bender to end all benders. A call from their mother with news that their conspiracy theorist father has gone missing launches the narrator from Chicago to Deep Red, Arkansas in a stolen car. Along the way, the narrator and their new bestie, a self proclaimed garbage goth with her own emotional baggage and someone on her tail, unpack the narrator's childhood and a recent personal loss that they refuse to face head on. It's an unflinching interrogation of class rage, economic immobility, gender expression, and the rot at the heart of capitalism. Make Sure You Die Screaming is the loud, funny, tragic, suspenseful road trip novel of our times.
That sounds incredible. I'm also like
Right?
a road trip novel. I'm there.
Yes. I mean, I was supernatural trash ages ago
Yes.
in a past
Same.
life. So
Same.
so something about this, especially like stolen car, I don't know. I love that we don't have a name for a narrator and that it seems like they are
Yes.
incredibly unreliable because of everything that they're throwing, like all the chaos that they're throwing themselves into and that they're just surrounded by. So everything about this sounds like a wild but good time. So
Yes.
Make Sure
It
You Die
just
Screaming, Z. Carlstrom, April 8th. Sorry. Yes.
no. It
Before I
sounds like
forgot.
something that like you will just be hooked on from start to finish. Like just
Exactly.
constant energy and chaos. And I love a book like that where it's like you just can't put it down.
You can't put it down. You don't know what to expect. I feel like I got nothing from that description, but also everything I need to pick it up. So I'm also assuming that's kind of what it's going to feel like, that you're going to pick this up, you're going to go, okay, let's see what happens. And then by the time you're done, no matter what star ranking you leave it at, you're still going to go, that was a read.
Yes.
That was a read that
Yes.
I'm glad I did.
Just
So
like a wild ride. Yes.
yeah,
And I also was like a supernatural fan. So anytime there's a road trip and there's going to be like monsters or craziness or chaos, like I am so there. So
yeah,
there.
I love seeing how people do a road trip narrative because I feel like we're so like zeitgeist used to it being
Mhm.
some form of supernatural or creaturey that even when it's
Yes.
just like the monsters of reality, I'm
Yes.
also very into seeing what
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah. I like the physical like representation of someone running from something, like that
Yes.
they're, on the move and either going towards something or away from it. I just like that visual, like when it comes to like the narrative. So whenever there's somebody who's traveling a lot or like on this road trip, that I just love that in a book.
It's such a cool plot device. It's a really interesting way to move a narrative along,
Yes.
but it also allows for you. I feel like you can throw in so much without it feeling like, where did that come from?
Yes.
It's like a free pass for the Deus Ex Machina because you're always in motion, so you can assume that everything is. So I feel like it always makes for it clean. But I also love the concept of like, this person clearly has no reason to relate to, care about, or feel cared for by their father. And so the fact that they're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm in chaos. Why not go figure out where the hell he is?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ugh,
My next pick is also a romantasy. Surprise, surprise. This is House of Blight by Maxim M. Martineau, and this comes out April 8th. And I read this description. I was like, oh, I am so there. It says, for readers of Sarah J. Maas and Rachel Gillig, two of my all-time faves. That is so me. Adira Brilwin is a thread maker. She holds a rare life-saving power that can cure disease and heal injuries in the blink of an eye. But magic always comes with a cost, and saving anyone sacrifices a sliver of her own life. She's always kept her abilities hidden until the powerful Fernglove family discovers her secret. The Ferngloves are charming and beautiful, possess powerful magic, and don't take no for an answer. Especially Orin, the head of these ruling elites. When Indira's brother unexpectedly contracts blight, an incurable virus killing people throughout the town, and an illness too strong for her to heal them both, Orin offers to help. Together at his estate, they'll research a cure while Orin slows their sickness and Adira hones her magic. His kindness and honesty surprises Adira, as does her undeniable attraction to him. But the other Ferngloves are suspicious of her power. and may be more dangerous than the ever-present disease. The longer Adira stays within the confines of the manor, the more the family's pristine exterior begins to crack, until Adira discovers a terrifying secret and must choose who she can save and at what cost.
First off, you're so brave. All of these fantasy names just
I know. I'm like, I don't
in
know that's how you pronounce that, but we're just going for it.
in all of your picks. And I feel like I forget every language I've ever learned when I have to look at a name that is a fantasy name, and I don't even have a good guess or an attempt. So like
I'm
kudos
sure
for
I'll listen to the audiobook and be like, oh, well, that was
oh.
not.
But that's like half the joy. But the concept of healing like that, where you have to give a part of yourself, oof, I
Yes.
love it. That's
Yes.
intriguing magic system for sure.
Yes. I love a magic system where there are actually like risks to using. There
Consequences,
has to be a cost. Magic comes at a cost.
right?
It can't just exist or it's boring. So this seems like it's going to be a really well developed magic system. And that for me, like, even if it is in romantasy where the fantasy can sometimes be a little bit lacking compared to, these high fantasies, if there's a good magic system, I am absolutely there. And you couple that with a good romance, and what's not to love?
Definitely. Well, and if that then goes, oh, the fantasy, the magic, whatever elements are strongest in there, you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind if this turned into has a book
Yes.
two, has a book three,
Yes,
or has a world around it.
absolutely. And I think this might be the
Probably
start of a
slated.
series.
It
I want to
sounds
say it sounds like the start of a series. It might be a duology, actually. I think it's a
okay.
duology.
I could see that from it. It looks like it's got duology vibes, and it's coming from Harper. I feel like they do a fair few duologies.
Yeah. And like Rachel Gillig, she's known for
Mhm.
her duology. So I feel like if they're comparing it to that, maybe I think it's a duology.
they're
Don't
they're
quote me on
prepping
that
us
one.
for yeah, right. They'll prep us for it eventually.
Yeah.
Well, for my next one, I am really turning the thriller dial up. This is that kind of psychological suspense thriller. This will be out April 1st from Julia Bart's The Last Session. I love this cover from a design aspect because you've got like an image across the front, but then it's crinkled down, and what you see underneath it is part of a psychiatric evaluation form. And that's where you go, oh, you have truly laid it all out for me right here on the cover. So, this is from the instant New York Times bestselling author of The Writing Retreat, a white knuckled locked room thriller. Oh, darn, everything I love. About a social worker who, after coming face to face with her dark past, must infiltrate a mysterious wellness center in the deserts of New Mexico. I love it when we have to infiltrate somewhere. When a catatonic woman shows up at the psych unit, social worker Thea swears she knows her from somewhere. She's shocked to discover the patient holds a link to a traumatic time in her past. Upon regaining lucidity, the patient claims she can't remember the horrific events that caused her brain to shut down. Thea's at a loss, especially when the patient is ripped away from her as suddenly as she appeared. Determined to find her, Thea follows a trail of clues to a remote center in southwestern New Mexico, where a charismatic couple holds a controversial monthly retreat to uncover attendees' romantic and sexual issues. Forced to participate in increasingly intimate exercises, Thea finds herself inching closer not only to her missing patient, but also to tantalizing answers about her harrowing past. However, time is running out, and if she stays for the last session, she too might lose her mind, or worse. So that is The Last Session by Julia Bartz, out April 1st. No shocker. I love a psychological thriller. I love this kind of twisty. I love an unreliable narrator, I guess. Like, there's just so much of this where it's the layers, there's the hidden past that's being uncovered, there's caring about someone. It's all of those layers that really get me. And then the setting to have this be in like the middle of the desert, just remote, nowhere, no help, like perfect setup, easy setup for me.
Yes, absolutely. All I have to say is the social worker better survive. They go through too much.
They go
They
through
better
too
survive.
much.
They're going
They
through
go
too much in the real world. She needs
right.
to survive.
We need like a social worker uplift here at the
Yes.
very least.
Yes.
So please
The
let her
social
survive and
worker
thrive.
better be the hero of this story.
We can only hope. They can't have anything else bad, please.
My next choice is Enigma by Rue Nix. This is also fantasy romance. I don't think it's quite romantasy. It might be. I thinking it's like fantasy
Gentle.
romance,
Yeah.
which like, you know, what's the
Right.
difference really? But
Right. It's like an ingredient list. The higher it is, the
yeah.
more it is.
Yes. Tomato, tomato, like
Exactly.
Salem Salazar comes to Mortimer University to get to the bottom of her sister's mysterious death. There, obsessed with forensics, she discovers there have been a lot more unexplained deaths on the campus. Her search leads her down a dark and dangerous path to a secret society and to Kaz. Casimir Vanderwall is in her way and another mystery to unravel. Is he just an art student, a man living a double life, or a murderer? While also at the university seeking answers for another death, Kaz has a lot more to him than meets the eye. Secret forces are at play at Mortimer, and no one is safe. As Salem tries to go under radar and Kaz tries to block her path, somehow they both end up in the crossfire of a powerful secret society. They are forced to work together to discover the truth or risk losing their lives. In this magnificent, steamy, dark academia romance from Runix, sparks will fly, rivals will become lovers, and terrible secrets will be unleashed. So I take
Love
it
it.
back. It does sound very romantic, actually. I'm going to go back.
I'm gonna take that one back.
Yes. Anytime they throw steamy in there, I'm like, okay, it's probably
Probably.
romance.
It's probably.
I love a dark academia. I love a college setting, a secret
Mhm.
society. I am so there.
Those are the best keywords. Secret society, dark
Yes.
academia, done and done. Like,
Yes.
perfect. Because of that, I'm gonna move one of my picks up because I think they pair very nicely together. This is kind of on the romantasy. It's like a romantasy thriller-ish YA fiction for us. This is Boys with Sharp Teeth by Jenny Howell. The cover is perfect. But I mean, like, it's exactly what you expect. This will be out April 8th. We Were Liars meets the Raven Boys in this mind bending YA debut. Again, I love a debut about dark revenge, twisted desire, and the sinister secrets lurking behind the walls of an elite boarding school. See, I got us there. 17-year-old Marin James has spent her entire life in the shadow of the exclusive Hunsworth Academy. And when her cousin's dead body is found in a creek on the school property, Marin knows exactly who's to blame. Adrian Hargraves and Henry Wu, the enigmatic yet dangerously alluring leaders of the school's social elite. Swapping her ripped jeans for a crisp prep school skirt, Marin infiltrates Huntsworth to seek justice. But her quest is quickly muddied by a confusing attraction to her new life and to the two dysfunctional and depraved boys who somehow understand her better than anyone ever has. When Marin uncovers an otherworldly secret the boys are hiding within Huntsworth's ivied gates, the lines between right and wrong, love and hate, and nightmare and reality begin to crumble, and nothing is as it seems. Welcome to Huntsworth Academy. That is Boys with Sharp Teeth by Jenny Howell, April 8th.
That definitely sounds like it goes hand in hand
Uh
with
huh.
Enigma.
They go right together. I'm guessing these boys are vampires.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yes.
Sounds good. I'm in.
Yes. I feel like now we need a Libby Life blog that's like murders at an academy.
Oh
That's
my god,
the
yeah.
theme. And
Murders at an Academy split between adult and YA
yes,
content.
yes. And
Done.
I feel like right here we've got like, a quarter of the list. It's perfect.
Between the two of us, we've already got it written.
Yes. And we'll let all of the wonderful librarians figure out the rest of the list and then
Yeah.
we'll be good to
You
go.
you tell us what else should be in there.
Yes. My next one, I think this is my last romantasy of the list. This is The Wind Weaver by Julie Johnson, and this comes out April 8th. And this is romantasy. Magic and adventure swirl through this spellbinding romantasy where a young woman reignites the embers of an ancient prophecy, unleashing a storm that could save her realm or doom them all. Fear of magic plagues war-torn Anwen. halflings like Rhea Fleetwood are killed on sight. But Rhea's execution is interrupted by an unexpected savior, one far more terrifying than her would-be killers, the mysterious and mercenary Commander Scythe. In the clutches of this new enemy, Rhea finds herself fighting for her life in the barren reaches of the Northlands. Yet the farther she gets from home, the more she learns that nothing is as it seems. Not her fearsome captor, not the blight that ravages her dying realm, not even herself. For Rhea is no ordinary halfling. The strange birthmark on her chest and the wind she instinctively calls forth mean she is a remnant, one of 4 souls scattered across Anwin, fated to restore the balance of magic, or die trying. But mastering the power inside her is only the beginning. Desire for the commander, a man she can never trust, a man with plans of his own, burns just as fiercely as the tempest beating against her ribcage for release. Rhea must choose, smother the flames or let them consume her.
Okay.
Yes. Whenever there's like 4 parts of something or 3, like that you have to
Yes,
bring together, I love that as a plot device, especially when it's other people who may or may not be willing to go along with whatever the quest at hand is. I think that's
definitely.
so interesting compared to like, I know a lot of times it'll be like the 4 like the amulet or whatever. And it's like,
Right.
okay, find them, put them together, whatever. But whenever, and this is the start of a series, I am sure, but whenever
It
there's
feels
like
like it.
people
Yeah,
involved, that it's like you have to find these very specific people to fulfill a prophecy. I love that as a plot device because it's
definitely.
going to bring so much conflict. There's going to be different relationship dynamics and so much to explore there that I just think this is going to be a really good one, especially like whenever there's an ancient prophecy, man. Like,
Yeah.
how can you not love an ancient prophecy?
How can you not love a prophecy foretold? Like,
Yes.
you're so right. There is something about when there is sentience to the things you have to bring together. It's like you're not on a quest where it's an adventure story and you have to get through to get the pieces. It's more like, well, I have to build rapport and trust. And yeah, I think that's super intriguing. And when they have the excuse to be like, but we're supposed to do this, I have to bring us together. Like, I love it.
Percy Jackson is where my lore started, like that world. So whenever
Got
there's a
it.
prophecy,
Okay.
it's like I'm just like there, but also my mind
Yes.
goes like 7 half-bloods must answer the call to storm or fire, the world must fall. Like I
Yeah.
like those prophecies are
It's
like in
right
my
there.
head constantly and I'm like, what would I have
What
the
happened to me?
capacity for if I didn't have this in my brain?
Believe me, I get it. And once you said that, it's like, oh, it makes so much sense now. I didn't read Percy Jackson until much later because it came out like not at the wrong time for me, but like I was just aging out where I needed to like, I have to try this instead. So I remember when The Lightning Thief came out, which
Yes.
makes me feel so old. So there was something that I was like, oh, not right now. This isn't it, which I don't know how because I was such like a Greek mythology kid that I'll
Yes.
never understand. But yeah, I would love to know if I could free up some storage space, how unstoppable I'd become
Yes.
if
If
I
I
didn't
didn't
have like
Yes.
random episodes of Charmed burned into my brain
Yes.
and
Yes.
prophecies from books.
If I could purge the entirety of One Direction song lyrics from my head, I could probably solve like world hunger.
but
Like
but who would you be without that?
yes, like I cannot get rid of that. What if I need that knowledge in
What
20
if
years?
one day you're on Cash Cab? I don't know if that
Yes.
still exists, and you have to know every song in the catalog.
Yes.
This next pick is my kind of like it's a little on the science fiction realm, which is not my usual thing, but it also has horror in the subject line, so hopefully that'll like balance it out for me. This is Polybius by Colin Armstrong. The pull quote from Richard Gismar is, "If you're a fan of Stephen King and Stranger Things, this book is for you." I am not Stephen King's biggest fan, but I have read his books and I have enjoyed parts of them. So but I love Stranger Things, so we'll see what happens. It's got that like very creepy what you expect kind of from a like updated 70s sci-fi cover today. It's just like a lone, creepy little arcade machine. But this is Stranger Things meets The Walking Dead in this chilling novel based on the terrifying urban legend about a video game created by the government for psychological warfare. And that's where you get me tied back in. Anything that has like an urban legend, like folklore, mythology, anything like that, I'm in. October 1982, forced to move to the quiet seaside town of Tasker Bay by her mother, the only thing on high schooler Andy's mind is saving up enough money to return to her old stomping grounds in Silicon Valley. Her self taught skills with all things electronic make her a perfect fit for a job at the dingy local arcade where she can tune out from life and bankroll her eventual escape. Pining over the distant and aloof Andy is Roe, the son of Tasker Bay sheriff, who begins spending more time at the arcade. Despite promising herself that she wouldn't get attached to anyone in town, Andy finds herself opening up to the thoughtful, like minded Roe. When Polybius, a new bleeding edge game of unknown origin, arrives, the shop is suddenly overwhelmed with players fighting for time on the machine. Seemingly overnight, a virus like epidemic grabs Tasker Bay, while a violent coastal storm rolls in, isolating it from the outside world. People begin experiencing fits of anger, paranoia, and hallucinations. No one can be trusted. After a grisly act of violence goes unsolved, the town descends into chaos. Is the arrival of this mysterious game and the disorder in Tasker Bay a coincidence? Convinced the dire situation is somehow linked to Polybius, Andy and Roe desperately search for clues that might stop the spread before they too begin experiencing side effects. So that is Polybius, Colin Armstrong, end of the month, April 29.
It's kind of giving Jumanji, which I love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where my lore begins.
Yes.
Jumanji, the
I
original.
I love Jumanji. So
Uh
that
huh.
is so intriguing to me, that premise. But I'm also someone who I cannot do zombies. So if that's where we're going with this, then
Yeah,
I'm out.
I don't like zombies. That to me
Yeah.
is not a concept I'm into. I'm hoping the Walking Dead parallel is more the like isolation
Yes.
kind of thing, and that whatever mysterious thing has them isn't like yeah, I'm hoping it's their way of
Yes.
saying like pandemic-esque without being they have a taste for flesh that's not my favorite.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so in for this.
Yeah. Whenever there's zombies or like I know there's like cannibalism, it just
Yeah,
that's not me. It's not
not
my
my thing.
thing, which even like you come across it a lot in fantasy, but it's like it's
Yeah.
normally something you can kind of skim through. It's like, oh, well, that was
Yes.
unsettling, but we're done now. It's not a
Yes.
constant theme.
I think if it's the same thing here, oh my gosh, I keep hitting the mic today. I think if it's the same thing here where it's like, oh, there's a scene where they know the
Yes.
risk of running into infected people, but if there is a cure at the end
Yes.
of this and like it's a scene here and there, I can do that. I can do that. But if it's constant threat, constant conversation, not so much.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that was the end of my adult titles. My last two are YA reads.
Oh, fun. I love a good YA.
Oh, me too. My favorite.
My next one is historical fiction. And this is one that the title, the cover just instantly caught my eye. It's the book club for troublesome women. On the cover, you've got like this very 60s looking couch and this woman in a short little yellow dress. She's got a cigarette between her fingertips. Like, just, I love the title. I love the cover. It's,
So
I just
good.
know I'm going to love this.
Definitely.
Margaret Ryan has never really meant to start a book club or a feminist revolution in her buttoned-up suburb. By 1960 standards, Margaret Ryan is living the American women's dream. She has a husband, 3 children, a station wagon, and a home in Concordia, one of Northern Virginia's most exclusive and picturesque suburbs. She has a standing invitation to the neighborhood coffee klatch, and now, thanks to her husband, a new subscription to A Woman's Place, a magazine that tells housewives like Margaret exactly who to be and what to buy. On paper, she has it all. So why doesn't that feel like enough? Margaret is thrown for a loop when she first meets Charlotte Gustafson, Concordia's newest and most intriguing resident. As an excuse to be in the mysterious Charlotte's orbit, Margaret concocts a book club get together and invites 2 other neighborhood women, Bitsy and Viv, to the inaugural meeting. As the women share secrets, cocktails, and their honest reactions to the controversial bestseller, The Feminine Mystique, they begin to discover that the American dream they've been sold isn't all roses and sunshine, and that their secret longings for more is something they share. Nicknaming themselves the Bettys after Betty Friedan, These four friends have no idea their impromptu club and the books they read together will become the glue that helps them hold fast through tears, triumphs, angst, and arguments, in what will prove to be the most consequential and freeing year of their lives.
Oh, I love it. I'm in.
Yes.
This is the kind of historical fiction that I go for. I feel like we get one of these every couple of years where it's like a really good period piece in terms of like beautiful descriptions in view of the time, and then like a strong group of friends and how they carry through. Yep, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah, I love a found family. I love
Mhm,
stories about women, especially in history, like recognizing
definitely.
their power and recognizing what the patriarchy does to them. I'm all about it. So this to me, and like I also love like these names, Bitsy, Viv,
Uh-huh.
Margaret. Like I know some of them, they still exist and you come across them, but I love like a good old-fashioned name.
Absolutely. Just something that makes you go, "Oh, this is a different time," where you can
Yes.
truly sink into the 60s.
Yes, yes. And I love 60s style. I love 60s fashion. So for me, this is just like it's checking all the boxes. I think I'm probably going to pick this for my book club to read at some point
Fun.
in the near future. And it's an all women's book club for a women's leadership group.
Love
So,
it.
like, how perfect.
Oh, definitely. Oh, that's no, that's so good. My next pick, I have to pivot wildly for this one. Apparently, I was in a very specific mood when I picked all of my titles. Y'all know that happens to me. That some months it's like a wild, gorgeous spread of all, it's a charcuterie board of reads, and then sometimes it's a very specific shopping list. So, oops, here's another suspense thriller horror YA. The cover got me. I love this kind of concept of how do we make technology the villain or some form of evil. This is Deadstream by Mar Romasco Moore. This is out April 1st. And this just general description will tell you all why I picked it. Rear Window meets The Ring. That's all I needed. I love Rear Window, and The Ring was one of like the first horror movies I ever saw. So if this is the likes, I'm in. In this sinister YA thriller in which a teen girl witnesses the live streamed murder of a popular online streamer by a paranormal entity and could be its next victim. Again, I'm sold because I love the like, let's look at some concerns and risks for today. You put yourself out there, there's always a risk, but also scale it back a little by making it paranormal. So, again, into it. After surviving a car accident that claimed the life of her best friend, Teresa is now terrified to leave the safety of her bedroom. Since then, her only solace and window to the outside world has been the online community she found through streaming. But one night, the safe world Teresa created starts to break down. A shadowy figure appears in the background of her favorite streamer's video, and his behavior mysteriously changes over the next few days before he dies in front of thousands of viewers. Teresa finds herself at the center of a life and death investigation as the world tries to figure out what or who this figure could be, especially as it begins appearing in other people's streams, compelling them to open the door and let it in, including Teresa's own. In order to save herself and the rest of the internet from this relentless entity, Teresa must venture outside of the mental and physical wall she's created. But will she be able to conquer her fears before anyone else loses their life? So that is Deadstream by Mar Romasco Moore, out April 1st. I say this with full love. It sounds cheesy, like in the best way possible. Like the tropes used to build this, I love that like uh rear window, but purely built off of trauma, and then like the very clear ring comparison. I'm into it. Unfortunately, I love him. Like this is what I want.
This sounds cheesy as it is. This sounds like something that would scare me.
Oh
Like
yeah, definitely.
legitimately. Like I
Absolutely.
feel like I love the premise because I do
Yes.
love the idea of like internet friends and like that is so real like in the
Yep.
21st century. Like we've all met people on Instagram or like back in the day Tumblr, MySpace,
Yep.
whatever. Like you have these friends that they turn into legitimate, real friendships that offer a
Absolutely.
sense of community. But it is so scary because you don't know who you're talking to. And
Nope.
anyone, I mean, we all like to think we're
Anyone
very
could be
digitally
anyone.
savvy,
Yeah.
but there's so many ways, especially now with like AI and everything, that someone could trick you into
Right.
believing you know this person and you don't.
Yeah.
So for me, like even that, like that plays so well
Uh-huh.
in like a thriller horror situation.
Oh, I'm so with you. This will scare me from what I think about it, like you were just saying,
Yes.
after the fact, which is why this is on my list because I think this has really interesting looks at the implications of where we are
Yeah.
today. Because, right, I have friends that I have only made because of the internet. And like there are people that I get to talk to purely because of being online that yeah, you it just it makes you think, and then I love that, and like I said, I mean cheesy in the best way possible.
Yes.
I love some cheese, and so something about that is just it really speaks to me that kind of horror element instead of going so far in a different direction with it. That to me feels very good. This is also one that I know that when I'm done with, I'm gonna go like, that was fantastic as it was. Now I would love to see like the crime version of that where there isn't a horror element, where it
Right.
is just the
Yes.
real.
Very much Criminal Minds. I feel like there was an episode that was
Probably.
along these lines. I think it was like an online challenge or something that was like, I don't know,
That was
leading
like
to these
targeting
murders.
people.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was targeting like teenagers. And that's like the scariest thing to me. It's like I do
Yes.
love true crime, but as soon as
Hmm.
I am reading a horror that feasibly it could happen in real
Yep.
life, if you just tweaked like a few things, like the staircase in the woods, like
Right.
that's something that gets me.
Yes.
I just, as soon as that's a possibility that it could really happen to me, I'm out.
I'm terrified. Yeah.
Yes. We're running for the hills, not the woods.
No, running out of the
Yes.
woods.
All right. My final pick, I had to. I know it's an
Yes,
anticipated
please.
read for everybody.
It's got to be here.
Yes, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is a romance. If you know Emily Henry, obviously it's romance. And again, we are coming back to the writing, publishing trope here. I love it. I eat
Hmm.
it up every time.
And she does it so well.
She does. Nobody does it like Emily Henry.
They really don't.
She's incredible. Alice Scott is an eternal optimist, still dreaming of her big writing break. Hayden Anderson is a Pulitzer Prize winning human thundercloud, and they're both on balmy Little Crescent Island for the same reason, to write the biography of a woman no one has seen in years, or at least to meet with the octogenarian who claims to be the Margaret Ives, tragic heiress, former tabloid princess, and a daughter of one of the most storied and scandalous families of the 20th century. When Margaret invites them both for a 1 month trial period, after which she'll choose the person who will tell her story, there are three things keeping Alice's head in the game. One, Alice genuinely likes people, which means people usually like Alice, and she has a whole month to win the legendary woman over. Two, she's ready for this job and the chance to impress her perennially unimpressed family with a serious publication. Three, Hayden Anderson, who should have no reason to be concerned about losing this book, is glowering at her in a shaken to the core way that suggests he sees her as competition. But the problem is, Margaret is only giving each of them pieces of her story, pieces they can't swap to put together because of an ironclad NDA, and an inconvenient yearning pulsing between them every time they're in the same room. And it's becoming abundantly clear that their story, just like the tale Margaret's spinning, could be a mystery, tragedy, or love ballad, depending on who's telling it.
I I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I feel like you know what you're going to get from Emily Henry when it comes to the characters, how they're built and how they're delivered, or what their attitudes and energies are. But
Yes.
the story around them is what you don't know what to expect. And that's what
Yes.
makes it exciting.
Yes. And I love, for me, the female main character, the way she's described, like the eternal optimist. She likes people, and so people
Mhm.
genuinely tend to like her. reminds me so much of my husband. He's like the just quintessential like golden retriever, could talk to a brick
Yeah.
wall. Everyone he meets is his best friend. Like you go out and you're like, how do you know these people? He's like, oh, I
Oh,
saw them on my walk, or like what like I met them once. Like he just
18 years ago. Yeah.
yes. Yes. He's just that person. And like when
Yeah.
I think of like this dynamic, I love people like that because they remind me so much of him. And like
Yeah.
I can really get into the story because normally there tends to be something that like, gets to them. It frustrates them. Like, why aren't they liking me? And even though I can't really relate to that because I'm not like the super optimistic, everyone loves me type of person.
Sure.
I've seen it like in my husband over the years. Like we've been together almost a decade now. And I it's so interesting to see when something doesn't go an optimist way and it sucks for them. And you're just like, I don't know how you would like live in everyday life where like there's people who just don't like you and like
It's
things
yeah, and
just
you can't
yeah.
do anything about it. Like
Yes.
it's just
Like
who they are.
so I really like the premise of this female main character because I feel like
1,000%.
just some of those little tropes there, like I see it in my husband and I feel like that for me, like it's gonna make it very real.
I also love the intro of like the third character in our octogenarian. Like just
Yes.
something about she wants to have like another story in her life in like this portion of her life. Whereas like in the past it's been the kind of lifetime movie trope of gotta move away from this or had a bad breakup or so there's just something interesting about like this is the career moment very
Yes.
intentionally instead of walking away from or in spite of.
Yes. I also feel like you read this, like if you didn't know who Emily Henry was, you didn't know this was one of her books, and you read this description,
Yeah,
you wouldn't be like, this is a romance novel. You would
exactly.
think it's like some sort of mystery or just like general fiction.
Yep.
And I love that in a romance when it's not just about like the main characters. Like there are legitimate stakes and there's character growth.
There
And she
is a
does it
story
so
that we
well.
want to, right, there's a
Yes.
story we want to see unfold outside of how the two of them wind up together. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know how all romances end. Like we
Yes.
don't know how we get there necessarily, but we know how they're supposed to end. But
Yeah.
right, there's stakes, there's implications for this character that hopefully over time you care about.
Yes. And I lived in West Palm Beach for a while, and this like third character is giving just like old Palm Beach fabulous heiress type woman that
Definitely.
I can like picture her so clearly in my head, like the island woman. I
Hmm.
I love it. I'm so ready for this one, and I know a lot of people have really
I
been
mean,
looking
you and
forward
everyone
to
else.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, me and everyone else, like me and the whole wide world.
You and her entire fan base. But
Yes,
that
yes.
said,
Yeah.
everyone's right. No one's wrong about that. That's for
Yes.
sure. Well, again, I'm going to take us on a wild pivot. Actually, no, it's not that wild. My final pick is a romance. What? I'm just so used to
How'd
saying
we
I
get
have to
here?
pivot. Who knows? I will find out maybe. My last pick is a YA romance. This is from Brian Selznick. It's Run Away with Me, out April 1st from our friends over at Scholastic. From number one New York Times bestselling author and illustrator Brian Selznick, a profoundly romantic YA novel about two boys finding each other and falling in love over one summer in Rome. I'm going to call you Danny. What are you going to call me? Angelo. Danny is spending his 16th summer in Rome. As his mother spends the day at work in a mysterious museum, he wanders the ancient sights and streets. Soon after his arrival, he encounters a shadow who becomes a voice, who becomes a boy his age, Angelo. Soon, Danny and Angelo are spending as much time as they can together, piecing together stories of the city while only gradually letting their own histories be shared. Attraction leads to affection, and affection leads to both an intimate closeness and a profound fear of what happens next. Danny has never really had a home or known the love of another boy. Angelo seems to have more experience, but he also has secrets just out of Danny's reach. Run Away with Me is a stunning creation weaving words and illustration to tell the story of a transformative love over the course of one Roman summer. Run Away with Me, Brian Selznick, April 1st. I mean, it's It's got the energy of the, oh, why can't I think of it? Call Me by Your Name, but without any of the creep factor or Army Hammer. So we're good. Uh, Jokes aside, this sounds beautiful. I really cannot wait to see how Brian combines his word and illustration because he is such a prolific illustrator and such a wonderful writer. I'm really curious to see how this goes. And that kind of like first love, self-discovery, coming of age story. I'm a sucker for it. I love it. I want queer books for kids who need them to, feel not alone, but also I think it's really well timed because as I start to head into like the summer months that are hopefully eventually coming, this feels like that transition book for me just in my own reading season to get from the horror and the thriller and the creepy of the winter that I seem to be pulling with me. This moves really well into spring and summer and yeah, just something about the magic of discovering a city and discovering yourself,
That sounds so good. And by my
right?
count, I think we mentioned 3 books in this episode that take place in Italy. So
Look at us.
I think maybe it's time to go to Italy.
I guess we're gonna have to go record an episode on
Yes.
location.
Yes. On the Amalfi Coast, and then we'll hit up Milan and then Rome,
And then
and
Rome.
yep.
Perfect.
Yes.
I'll see what the budget can do.
Yes.
Yeah, listeners, you comment down below if you want us to. I'm kidding. I wish. Who wants a live episode from Italy? Uh, us.
Yes, us. We would love a live
Oh,
episode from
we
Italy.
would love it. Would anyone else? Who knows? Doubt it, but
I feel like when you talk about books that, like, transition you into
yeah,
summer, though, and, like, getting ready for summer, like, Italy, for whatever reason, like,
yes,
just plays into that so well, and, like, obviously, these were 3 very different, like, we've got
completely.
fantasy on the Amalfi Coast, we've got horror in Milan, and then we've got YA love in Rome, like,
Hmm.
I love that, and I think there's a lot of books here that'll be really good for, like, that transition period. Like, for me, When the Tides Held the Moon, that I already see it, like, me
Yes.
transitioning kind of I tend to read fantasy, like, 90% of the year. It's, like,
Same with horror.
September,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Mine's, like, September through, like, June, and then
Mhm.
this to me, I'm like, "Okay, this is like a cozy romantasy. This will transition me
Yes.
for, like, the June, July, August, like, romance beach reads type of situation."
Absolutely. I feel like straight up horror for me is probably like August through April. So like August to May is
Yeah.
kind of that. But then right, that's when I switch into the camp thrillers and the
Yes.
the the like very beachy read versions of thriller intrigue kind of stories sneak in for me. And that's when I read a ton of YA because I'm always dying to be like, what should kids be reading for summer reading? Like what's
Yes.
what's happening? So yeah, I feel like our lists are balanced very well to get us into the upcoming seasons.
Yes.
But Madison, thank you for joining me today. I hope you'll come back in the future.
I would love to. I'm always down.
Perfect. And then just remind everyone where they can find you online.
Yes, I am simon.says.read on Instagram and then just Simon Says Read on TikTok. So go ahead and follow me, interact with me there. Let's be book besties. I'd love for you to come join my little bookish journey.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Madison. And thank you all so much for joining us today. You can find links to all of the books we've mentioned in the episode description or the YouTube description, wherever you're enjoying us right now. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And as always, happy reading. Readers can sample and borrow the titles mentioned in today's episode in the Libby app. Our library friends can purchase those titles in Marketplace. Professional Book Nerds is proud to be an Evergreen Podcast signature program. To learn about other Evergreen podcasts, visit evergreenpodcasts.com. Our podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, and edited by Joe Skelly and Andrew Alonso. The podcast is presented by Overdrive. To learn more, visit professionalbooknerds.com. Happy reading!